Now, the story of Bristlewolf was not discovered on the internet. Matter of fact, just going out into the desert, just exploring Nevada, my wife and I ran into a rancher and he told us the story of Bristlewolf. And this one very short story turned out to be all of this and way more. Now, we started discovering this story by making phone calls and talking to people in a one single newspaper article that I found. And that just blew up. And then I started gathering all these files individually. And the story didn't just fall in my lap. There would be these long periods of time where nothing would happen. Matter of fact, for a whole year, I could never find the guys that found the bodies. And one of my coworkers goes on a horrible date, and the guy that she went on a date with just so happened to be best friends with the son of the man who found the bodies. And then he calls me up, and then next thing you know, the whole case just blows up, and I met him and we interviewed him out there right where the bodies were found. But I wanted to take you over this whole caseload. And now the story of Bristlewolf is very wild. This newlywed couple from Colorado drives out to the Nevada desert to look for treasure using a map from the 1800s. And when they go out there, they disappear. And 10 days later, they're discovered. Two guys from Reno, the guys I was just talking about, found their bodies out there. And they found a third guy out there, but they didn't know he was dead just yet. And when they drove by him, they realized that he's also dead. And they freak out and they drive to the nearest ranch, which would be Jackie Hires Ranch, and they call the police. And now this is over 120 miles away from Winnemucca. And so it takes the police a considerable amount of time to drive out there. So they end up going out to arrest Bristlewolf in the morning. And when they do, they find out that he is a disfigured schizophrenic hermit that lives in a hole in the ground. And he never says a word. And that's where the story begins for me and for you. Now, through all this, I started finding all these crazy files. So this one here is of his police report. All the people that he tried to hurt or was arrested for whatever he did. It could be not having registration or cursing people out or whatever, or attempted murder. But every time he'd be arrested, he'd be let go. This is his medical records. This is his 3 schizophrenic Oregon State Hospital stays, and when he blows himself up with dynamite. That story is pretty amazing. I'm going to be making a video about that. More arrests. In this report, he tries to kill 2 cops with a knife. And he's arrested, he's arraigned, and this is on a Friday. He spends the weekend in jail, gets out, and the judge looks at him and says, "Who is this guy? Where'd you get him?" They say, "We got him out in the desert for attempted murder on me and my partner." And the judge says, "Let him go. He'd be a burden on taxpayers." And so he's let go, and then eventually he would murder 3 people from that one moment. More officer reports. This is a very telling story on his life and the people that knew him. Back here is a report on his mom. This is a 1978 report from his mom, his sister, and then his other sister. His best friend gives me a great story on his childhood, how they used to hunt and fish, and they would bribe the teachers for better grades using whatever they caught. I love that story. And this is a really good one. In 1963, he tried to kill his sister, and then, or allegedly tried to kill his sister, and then he, in 1966, he allegedly tries to kill his stepfather with a shotgun. And then in 1968, he's up in the Blue Mountains, up in northeast Oregon, and he's in a little ghost town called Granite, when this officer, William Berry, gets a phone call because somebody's living in them and trying to burn down the shacks. They're afraid the shacks might burn down. Well, Officer Berry finds himself in a predicament where he's in a Mexican standoff with this hermit, but as we know, it's Ronald Gress. Ron Gress pulls a shotgun on him and shoots him, and somehow William Berry survives and talks his way out of this situation, and then Gress is arrested, and he's taken to the Oregon State Hospital, and and that's going to be in the book, and that's an amazing story. This is one of the files. This is his best friend up in the mountain, up in the desert. This is Jesse Miller. Jesse Miller's dead, but he talks like really in depth on his whole life out in the desert, how he ate from hot spring or drank from hot springs, ate roadkill, even fought a hawk off for a rabbit. Him and a hawk got into an argument over this rabbit that Gress shot, and the hawk came in to grab it, and they fight over this thing. And so many more crazy stories. But I think one of the most touching stories is this story, and this is of postmistress Beverly Goodloe. Beverly Goodloe is working at the post office when Bristlewolf walks in to get his mail, and he's a starving, crazy person. And when he gets there, his check's not there, and he thinks that Beverly's holding it against him and won't give it to him. And so he freaks out and curses her out and tells her he's going to kill her. And he's out in the parking lot just going back and forth with a shotgun in his hand. And Beverly could have called the police or a rancher to shoo him away, but she doesn't. You know what she does? She locks the door and she walks right up to him and says, "Are you hungry?" And he says, "Yeah." And she gives him $50. And right there, Ronald Gress, Bristlewolf at the time, breaks down and cries and gives her a hug. And it's one of the most human things ever. I mean, not too many people would be kind to somebody that's already threatened to murder you and cursed you out, right? But she takes the high road and breaks him down with kindness, and he eventually gets his money and he pays her back with interest. He gives her $5 extra. I mean, that's just amazing. But anyway, as I went through all this stuff and all this, getting everything together, because our book, I got an offer on our book, on the book Bristlewolf. I just wanted to let you know that I found some really cool stuff. I found these tapes from 1978. This is Richard Weiss's family and his sister. They talk about him, so it's a 1-hour interview. I'm really excited to listen to this, and we'll make a little video on it. And then the second tape is of Judy Weiss's family and how they talk about her and Richard and their relationship. And just listening to the voices of the mom, it just breaks your heart that they had to go through that. Here's their beautiful daughter who's well educated, a city person all day long, latest trends, latest fashion, latest everything. She's a realtor. She has literally zero business to be out in the desert. And then she's executed as she watches her husband being murdered. Then she's executed and by this hermit that lives out in the desert. And I just cannot imagine. My wife and I interviewed her brother. Even after 40 plus years, you could just see just the confusion and the sadness of the story. And yeah, so I'm just glad I get to show you some of the research. There's a lot of it here and here. So if you like it and you want to see some more, we can break this down to even more. Let me know what you think. But this is basically how I wrote the book and studied Bristlewolf. So thanks for watching.